So I was like, assume I know nothing. I was like,
Mhm.
tell Claude, like, talk to me like I know nothing.
Right.
Here's what I want to do. Give me every single step, start to finish, and just assume I know nothing and explain it to me along the way.
Cool.
And it's what we used to do with Google, though, right? We got stuck. We would Google something. It's the same mentality, even with
Right.
code, right?
I'm talking to Brian Dreyer, who has made his LinkedIn title Product Marketing Leader for the AI Era. So he knows a thing or two about using AI to do his job. He's currently Director of Product Marketing at Skan AI, a B2B process intelligence platform that uses AI to capture work activities in real time and measure how operations run. Brian's path to product marketing was a little different than most because he started his career in product management at Comscore, where he worked on bridging the gap between customers in North America and the overseas engineering team. He has a lot of experience in product lifecycle marketing for startups, taking new products from inception to launch and beyond. And we're going to delve into how AI has changed how he has approached all that. So, welcome to Brian.
Thanks for the introduction.
Sure. So, everyone in product marketing talks about how it's more important than ever to cut through the AI noise. We've all heard that narrative going on. What do you think has gotten noisier? Are there kind of
Well,
opportunities for product marketers right now to take
mm,
advantage of that?
yeah, it's kind of funny. I was on stage with one of the local product marketing association events last winter too, and I got up there and I was like, "Who else is tired of seeing the phrase AI powered?" And almost, I don't know, 2/3 of the hands easily went up pretty fast because I think it's quickly becoming an overused phrase. But at a more higher level, I actually think product marketers are in a really unique spot right now, and I think we're probably becoming more valuable than we've ever been because it is easy to build right now. But the idea of positioning and standing out is probably the hardest it's ever been because there's so much. I mean, it's pretty easy to spin up your own application to do very kind of niched and singular focused applications. I've really kind of leaned into not trying to use that phrase AI powered. I still get some pushback. People still lean into it because it's easy.
Yeah. And I think I've talked to you about this prior to this conversation that I think it's just going to become like the internet. Nobody talks about how this is an internet company because every company is essentially an internet company. You must use the internet to do business in 2025. And I think that's going to be the same for AI, that's going to kind of become a passe, self-evident term, AI powered.
It totally will. And we went through that with the SaaS movement where, people really leaned into, oh, we're a SaaS company. We're not an on premise company anymore. And at some point, there weren't hardly any on prem companies left. And you're right. Nobody talked about it because that was just the way to build. And I think you're right. I think it's going to go that way because we're all, there aren't too many applications out there not using some kind of AI, even if it's a more of a traditional machine learning, algorithmic way of using it. We all have to be using it in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely, definitely. I would love to hear a couple of examples of how you're using AI in product marketing.
Yeah. So I'm a self-proclaimed Claude fanboy. I really should have a t-shirt that says Claude is my homie. Uh
Okay, that's your favorite one. All right.
yes. One more thing I'll be making for myself pretty soon. So I don't know, I've really leaned into, really Claude specifically. I like it more than the others because it is just a fundamentally more human writer. And I've anecdotally kind of bounced this off other people who tend to agree.
Mhm.
So I tend to use that more than anything. So how I make it work for me is in a couple ways. One, I really leaned into projects. Projects is a great tool for maintaining some kind of messaging and branding that for our job specifically is really important that we kind of carry throughout. Whether we're creating blog posts, LinkedIn messages, white papers, we know our differentiators. I'll be honest, I actually still write a lot of the differentiators, the core
Mhm.
material myself, because I really want to, kind of fine tune the words I use. So I still like creating that Word doc. And that's, what we've always done. We've always created that foundational Word doc. But Claude is really good at maintaining and using those foundational docs. So I do it in a couple ways. I've seen people do this for asset types, like maybe they want to do it for YouTube. I tend to do it around use cases. So I have projects for like we sell into healthcare insurance, property and casualty insurance, banks in terms of like loan underwriting. I do a lot of foundational work around ICPs, pain points, jobs. So I kind of use a jobs to be done framework. Put a
Mm.
lot of that in there. Claude helps me with the research, right? No doubt about it. But then it lives as these artifacts within the projects. So, but every single project carries our foundational messaging and positioning documents. So that always goes in no matter what. And
Mhm.
then Claude is just really good at working that into content when I needed to. Still read it. I still like to be, that human in the loop. But the first drafts are getting really solid. The UI work is getting there too.
Mhm.
Um, ebooks are a ebooks are a funny thing. I've created more this year than I think I've ever done in my career. But Claude's getting much better at layouts. So you can use it to help lay out on a page by page basis. I will literally tell it, you're creating this for an 8.5 by 11 PDF, and kind of be that specific to it. And it does a pretty good job of laying it out. I wouldn't use it straight out because I don't think the styles are as sophisticated as they need to be.
Mhm.
But if you want to get a quick layout and give it to a designer, get a much better starting point. So I've definitely used there. Some other ways I've used it. I literally
Mm.
built myself a tool specifically for refreshing old content. I find a lot of the SEO companies out there that are writing content, it's all about new. Like they all just want to they really focus on the new content. So I built myself a solution that use Claude Code to build this. I got it hosted on Vercel, but it literally goes into Google Search Console. You pick a post, pulls down all the search data for it. Then I send the actual post itself, so it fetches the post, fetches the Search Console data, send it to Chat GBT because that's the biggest search engine. I ask it, what are people searching for? What are the gaps? Rank them, gives me a prioritization. Then I take all that, give the user a chance to add context. So if you want to
Mhm.
add style guides, do's and don'ts, internal linking, and then I send it all back to Claude and say, write me a new draft. So
Nice.
yeah, I was doing it manually.
Right.
And I was like, there's got to be a better way. So me and Claude Code got to work.
Oh, cool. Do you have coding experience to do that?
Not really, not that kind. I know enough HTML and CSS and kind of understand JavaScript to sort of know what's happening. I would
Mhm.
never be able to create that on my own. That's nothing I would ever be able to do. Here's where being a product manager though really helps is
Mhm.
understanding requirements, is understanding some of the nuances of functionality into the
Mm.
weeds a little bit further. Because I think one of the best things you can do when you want Claude, ChatGPT, whatever you're coding with, the first step always needs to be requirements and features. How do you want it to work? Let it tease out the nuances, let it find the holes, but tell it what you want it to do.
Mm.
Take that 10, 15 minutes, create a document. And what they will do is actually create you a markdown document that lives inside the project. So it actually can kind of always reference it. Then you go build. That's a very product manager focused kind of way of writing because that's always where you start. And
Okay.
that has helped me basically create, your first versions just come out much better when you take that 15, 20 minutes of getting the feature set and the requirement set first.
Cool. So
So
you
that's my
feel like
advice.
anybody could do that?
I really do.
Little Claude Code sounds a little intimidating to me,
It
but you're
does.
giving me a little confidence of like, maybe I can figure it out.
So here's my advice too. And over the summer, I have two kids. One of them is in middle school. My daughter's in middle school, and I actually made her make an app over the summer when they were a little bored. I was like, "You're gonna go build," and it's the same situation. She's never coded. She doesn't know what it looks like. She doesn't know where to start. So my biggest advice to her was like, just ask it for help. First
Yeah.
time I got started, I was like, I don't know how to set up my computer to run something locally. So I was like, assume I know nothing. I was like,
Mhm. Mhm.
tell Claude, like, talk to me like I know nothing,
Right,
right?
right.
Here's what I want to do. Give me every single step, start to finish, and just assume I know nothing and explain it to me along the way.
Cool.
And it just, I mean, I'm at the point where it's like, it's what we used to do with Google though, right? We got stuck. We would Google something. It's the same mentality, even with
Right.
code, right?
Mm.
But my best advice is just ask it. Just ask
Yeah,
it. If you don't know what to
that's
do, say, I don't know what to do.
right. Tell me what to do.
Sometimes the simplest
Yeah,
answer is the best answer.
yeah. So we've been talking about how great AI is. What about some of your kind of pet peeves? Whether it's limitations of AI or pet peeves. I know you don't like talking about
Yeah,
AI.
I mean, so some of the things you still, I would argue, you still need to be careful for. What hallucinations is getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Where I find where I see the most hallucinations, and I see this on different app ones, because I'll admit Claude I use more than anything, but sometimes I will go to Google or Gemini or Perplexity, right? Because they do some. I think Perplexity and Google do a really good job with some of that web searching. Um, they will still sometimes make up data. One thing I still notice is in there having to fact check statistics is still a thing that hasn't gone away. You know, again, writing style is a really big one. Um,
Mm.
I don't know what the differences are under the hood of ChatGPT and some of the others, but somehow the folks at Anthropic are doing a really good job of keeping it human.
Mm.
Um, so that's a little bit of pet peeve. I mean, the M dash is a thing.
Of
I,
course. Yeah.
they all come out with it. It's kind of funny. I never use an M dash ever in my life until the last like 2 years.
I'm on the opposite side. I'm one of those people that's in mourning for the M dash. I use it a lot, and now you can't use it because people think you cheated.
It's like it's the calling card of AI generated content.
Right. I know. Maybe we'll see a future where we could reintroduce the M dash. Um,
I think I have it in one of my rules. No M dashes.
it doesn't listen though. I've tried that. It doesn't listen, and then if you go and chastise it, it like apologizes, and I'm like,
Do you
change your
sometimes
behavior. I don't want your apology. I want you to change your behavior.
do you yell at your AI?
I don't. I'm very weird about that. I try to keep it professional and polite. I don't know why. People yell at it all the time though. I think that because it makes me feel bad if it gets its feelings hurt.
Well, it depends if you believe that the machines are going to come alive one day and you want to be on their good side.
I guess maybe deep down I do believe that, I guess. I don't know. It feels like a child to me, I guess, and I don't want to be mean to it.
That's so funny.
Or a pet. Maybe it's more like a pet, and I would never be mean to a pet. Um,
No, it's fine. Every once in a while, you have to like threaten it that you're not going to use it again. Say, if you
is
don't
that
get
true?
this right, I'm not going to use it. It actually kind of works. I saw this written somewhere of like, make the AIs compete with each other. It's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting tactic to try to get it to think a little harder.
Yeah. That's interesting. I do that, but I don't tell it I do behind its back. Like I'll use ChatGPT and then put it into Perplexity. But I don't tell it that.
Yeah, I've told it before. It'll give you some funny
Doesn't
response.
occur to me. So you talked a little bit about differentiation and how you use your brain versus
Yeah.
machines. But differentiation is getting harder. With so much competition. But do you use AI to help understand how to stand out a little, at least as a starting point?
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer, right? Because they're really good at research, and you can just
Mhm.
cover a lot more ground, a lot faster, right? Because if you think about the research that we used to do manually, and probably still do somewhat degree manually, right? I mean, you would go to a competitor's website or a potential competitor,
Mhm.
and you're trying to examine how do they position their own products? What are some of the highlights that they call out? What do they look at differentiation for themselves? Because you're trying to figure out where to fit in, and the deep research tools are actually getting pretty good about that. They can sort of understand that same nuance to how a competitor is doing it. So I think the research phase it speeds that up. So that's a really good one because you can tell it. Don't just say who are my competitors. It's like go to their homepage, look at the hero text and the subsections, and then analyze it for what's their value, what's their differentiation. When it comes to my personal one, yeah, I do think this is where we've got to be a little bit more thoughtful. I know, and using your brain is like a hot take all of a sudden.
I do a LinkedIn post. Hot take. I
I
used
know.
my own intelligence and experience to do a project.
I
Uh,
actually wrote that internally on an email recently. They're like, "Oh, the sentence came out really well." I was like, "Written by me, not AI."
that's awesome.
Well, so look, I mean, from my company specifically, right? We're coming out with a new agentic solution, right? We're going hard into this space. It is really noisy, and I know it's going to be hard to stand out, which is why I'm being really, really picky on the individual words we use, because Claude by itself will give you something a little bit more generic, and they all going to give you a little bit more generic, because if you think about what they are learning from, they are learning on the fly from what's
Mhm,
out there on the web right now. Right. So, I mean, almost every new model you kind of need to be using, because they're updating a lot of their knowledge. Because
mhm.
knowledge from that's, 12 months old, all of a sudden is going to feel a little bit stagnant. Because I do think things are changing that fast. So that messaging and positioning exercise, I mean, I have my frameworks that I kind of run back to,
Mhm.
because still think they apply. They're still useful. Doing that first one manually, it makes a ton of sense. And I really encourage everybody, take that time to do the first ones manually, get the foundational right, and use the words that you really want to make sure that everybody else uses, because people are going to copy what we write and they're going to say it, whether it's in the sales pitch or it's on our homepage. Those are the two areas that has to be different. So I think it's easy to sort of talk a little abstractly, and that's where I think some of the AI content lands. Someone gave me this advice a long time ago, and I've kind of never forgotten it. It's like, be direct before you be creative, right? Make it really obvious first before you decide to get creative on how you want to describe it. And I think that advice now really, really holds true. Like, why are you different? It just has to come out. If you start to use the abstract terms, like AI powered, right, is a bit of an abstract term, because it doesn't really tell you anything about how you use it to stand out.
Yeah, and I
So,
think also because, like you said, there's kind of a list of action verbs, particularly in B2B, that we all use over and over and over again, accelerate or, generate revenue. We could probably like, make a whole list. And
mhm,
while those things, are probably true, I feel like we have to challenge ourselves to do better and get away from those
we do.
words. I think that's something I challenge myself to do. And I think that for me, I usually end up um just trying to say things in the plainest words possible. Like, what are we
Yeah.
really trying to do here? There's the whole, exercise of explain it to your grandmother. How would you explain it? And I use that a lot. Like, how can I make this simplified? And then there's plenty of time for, other pages on the website or other one pagers or, on the, further down on the deck to get into all the weeds of how this thing actually works. And let's get into all the feature buzzwords or what have you.
You're absolutely right. I think you said it right. I mean, putting it into platform pages, how it works pages, that starts to make more sense, because the person who takes the time to get that far hopefully also understands it.
A different phase in the sales cycle. If
Yeah.
you're really researching the specific, features, then you've bought in at least to the general value proposition and you're, you know, an interested buyer and you're weighing options. So of course the messaging should be a little different than on the homepage. And I think that's a challenge that I often face with trying to make founders understand that. I try to
Yeah.
describe it as the homepage is like the front door of your house, you know? You want to make it very appealing for people to walk through it, but it doesn't need, to have a list of all the cool stuff inside your house.
You're absolutely right. 100%. I mean, people want to just understand it quickly. I don't know if you ever read The Jolt Effect, at Dixon's book,
Hmm.
and the high level takeaway that I do think is starting to apply really here too is, like, it's a little bit less about feature selling and more about approach selling. It's like, can you get a prospect to buy into your approach, to
Hmm.
solving this problem?
I
Um,
like that because I usually use, value based or benefits, but I like
mhm.
the idea of approach selling. I'm going to use that.
I used it in my last company quite a bit, and I even like got the sales folks like explicitly ask the question at the end of your sales call, "Do you buy into our approach?" It's like either the prospect liked it or they didn't. So we just, kind of encourage the sales reps is just to ask the question point blank. And what you find is when they say yes, your win rates just go up.
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
people are bought into how you're doing it. If they think you're overkill, doesn't matter about the rest of your sales cycle. They're just not going to buy because they're not going to spend more because they don't see the value in it.
interesting.
And I think the AI side of things is going to be very similar, especially for us. I mean, we're doing a very different take on how we train our models and how we're getting some of that knowledge into these agent models. You either buy into our approach or you don't. And if you
Right.
do, it's going to be very hard for a competitor to beat us.
Absolutely.
And obviously we back that up with how we do it, but come in the front door with, here's our approach to solving this problem. Do you want to come in the front door or not?
Sure, sure. So you mentioned a little bit earlier how you never worked on more ebooks than this year, and I found that really surprising because
Yeah.
every time I go on LinkedIn, all I see is the old way of white papers and ebooks is dead, and nobody's reading your ebook. It's a big waste of time. I also believe that, like, if for a certain part of the sales cycle, I think that they can be valuable. Probably not for awareness necessarily anymore. I
Mhm.
mean, maybe, in terms of being a lead magnet, but if you're really researching options, I think that there is an opportunity to use ebooks. How are you using them?
As many LinkedIn posts as I see as the whole, your traditional demand gen funnels are dead and everything is changing. I take that a little bit with a grain of salt. Yes, there's changes. People don't research in a linear path, but to your point, people still do research, especially in the enterprise buying space. Like people are still trying to buy software in roughly the same way they've been buying for the last decade or more. So a lot of the ebooks, they are definitely lead magnets. That hasn't gone away. I mean, that is still a thing. Now, what people are researching, yeah, our AI use case content does a lot better than almost anything else right now. Like, I think we definitely see trends in people are still trying to figure out how to make it work, how to make it successful. Where am I going to add business value? That's a huge one. Everyone can spend money, but can they actually either save money, save efficiency, get productivity out of it? That's a harder one. So I think what people are researching is changing, um, but people I think are still doing that research. So, and yes, it's gotten easier, to kind of push out content for sure because that first draft is just it's a lot faster.
Mhm.
If you know what you want to say, you've got the supporting material, the points you need to make, where you insert yourself versus inserting kind of generic, generic's not the right word, but more industry specific or use case specific content.
Mhm.
That first draft is a lot easier. So we can still get to that first draft pretty quickly. And that's made us move faster. I mean, well, we thought maybe we would have done one or two a quarter. I'm doing one or two a month.
Oh, wow,
Um,
that is a lot.
it, it can be a lot. And it's a lot for a horizontal solution. Right? We're a bit of a horizontal solution. There's a few, places that we focus on, but we still have a horizontal nature to us. So our demand gen team actually has, quite a few targets.
Mm.
So a lot of times it's supporting that. And then there's some executive thought leadership. There's some pieces there too. Again, this is a new space. Um, doesn't really matter what level you are in an enterprise. It's new to you,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all the way up to the CIO. We sell into the CIO's organization primarily. A lot of
Mhm.
times that CIO gets on these calls because at the end of the day, they're buying AI solutions for the first time.
So there's an education piece, and it sounds like, yes, of course, there's some thought leadership, but it sounds like practical advice is winning.
It is 100%. It is because very quickly. I mean, for the last 12 to 18 months, enterprises have been spending. And the CFOs are going to come knocking of like, hey, what am I getting for this spend?
Right,
And
right.
that's where the rubber hits the road. We've heard this anecdotally too, is like CFOs they want to know what they're getting for their spend. They know they have to spend it, but we got to have something to show for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what about in the future? What do you think AI's capabilities are going to be for marketing and product marketing in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think we're still figuring out how to make systems out of it.
Mm.
And I say that because I know what I'm doing, but I'm still in this like always be learning phase.
Mhm, mhm.
As many times as I think as I've got, some systems or connections in place, I see someone who's, got a more complicated system. At some point, it still has to work. I'm not convinced that everybody's 40-step process where it's one comment away on LinkedIn, you know, actually works. I still think there's a little bit of junk in there. Um, so I think over the next 12 months, I still think there's going to be a lot of learning. Um, where I think as marketers, we're going to get a lot of lift is actually on the creative side. Um, the videos that are being created are good. I don't know if you've really played with like Google's VO or Flow or any of these Google products. They are getting really, really good. And not just at like a 5 to 8 second clip, but of actually maintaining a scene and a character across multiple videos.
Hmm.
So I've been kind of toying around with that a little bit on how can we use that to, speed up marketing generation of videos, people that want to do, a talking head like a real person. It's a lot easier to do that now. Whereas you might have had to hire somebody, get someone on camera. We're kind of taking care of that. You can develop a character with AI and image generation, and Google's doing a really good job of taking that and moving that into video. That's one of those areas that I've definitely been playing around with. So, in product marketing, the creative side of things is still a bit of a human element. I see there's a couple sites trying to do things like PowerPoints and data sheets. I still don't think it's polished enough
Hmm.
to really use that I would put my name on it. I think it's good for idea generation, and I totally use there's actually a site, GenSpark, that I actually really like to use. I just think they do a good job with layouts, but it's the creative side I think is the next leg up. I think they got really good at text generation. The creative side needs to catch up.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely. That will be a accelerator for our workflows. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have the getting to know you portion of the podcast.
But
We're back talking to Brian Dreyer, who is Director of Product Marketing at Skan AI. So, Brian, looking back at your career, can you recall an experience that kind of shaped your leadership style or your decision making approach? I think that you have a unique perspective because you've come from product management and transitioned into product marketing.
yeah, I've seen a lot of different types of leaders throughout my career here, and I think the one that's kind of shaped more than anything is the leader that's willing to back you up, even if they think you might be wrong. And I do remember I've an experience earlier on, especially in my product management career, where maybe not have made a right or wrong decision per se. It didn't have some big ramifications, but I remember being backed up. And I do think that was a good one, a strong one for me. So as a leader, I do try to back my people up and my teams up, and I do always look at it as a team. I don't think anybody works for me. I think they work with me. So if you take that mentality, it starts to shift the dynamics because there's a time and place for busy work. We all do it. I want people that can think for themselves, and I want to give people some autonomy
Hmm.
because those are the folks that tend to grow the most. I want people to grow under me. If you go into like the mega companies, can be a little bit of a different story sometimes. You just need people that are there to get the busy work done, and that's their job. But I want people to grow. So sometimes backing them up, making sure they know I've got their back, I think is actually a really important part of the team because the people that don't feel supported, they struggle. They struggle the most, and they also don't stick around. So it's a great way to lose good people.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely think my most successful engagements are whether it was a full-time position or, as a consultant, being the boss or stakeholder, have a collaborative attitude is just a much more pleasant and ultimately productive experience.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah.
Totally is. So I try to carry that.
So on the flip side, what's the worst piece of advice or conventional wisdom you've been told or even that you've heard out in the world?
Advice is definitely shifting. I kind of go back a little bit. I mean, I got out of college in the early 2000s. Um, there was no social media. There was no gig economy. Um, Salesforce had not pioneered the no software phrase yet. Um, Google was just some little company with a search box.
I
So
remember that.
you know, yeah, the advice of do what you love and you'll figure out how to make money on it, I think is shifting quite a bit. Job markets have really changed. Job openings and job types have changed. The gig economy is an interesting one. There's an avenue to where you have to make a living somehow. And I think it may not always be what you love. But I tried what you do to support yourself doesn't have to define who you are. I do think we might have grown up with a little bit of that mentality of like, your career is who you are. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think if people piece together income off multiple sources, they have side hustles even if they do it full time, they have side hustles because they actually might be more passionate about that. But maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't, either doesn't pay as much, they don't lean into it, for whatever reason. So I think that sort of advice is a little different, which is probably why you're going to see some changes for like the next generations coming out of college. I mean, my
Yeah.
undergraduate's in sports management.
Oh, really?
I don't do anything with that.
I mean, that's still pretty lucrative career area,
It totally could
but
have been.
probably the
It could have
jobs
been.
are more
Yep.
scarce, right? Yeah.
Could have gone very differently, but no, I don't know. I think some of that advice that we grew up with isn't necessarily holding true. And I think we all just have to embrace that level of change.
Yeah, I think it's hard to make a living in a more creative field specifically that you have to have, I think, some kind of financial backing in order
Yeah,
to really kind of go for it, I think. It's very to be an artist these days, I think it's one of the
I would
more
agree with that.
brave, endeavors. So that's interesting. But sometimes the best business insights come from outside of work. Do you do anything outside of work, like for fun or something you're passionate about that you've also learned things that help you do your job better in maybe more unexpected ways?
So the thing that helps me learn the most is probably being a youth sports coach. I mentioned I have two kids. My daughter's in middle school. Did a little bit with her when she was younger. It's my son who's in fourth grade, who I've done a lot with at this point. So I've been his coach ever since 2020, which was an interesting time of coaching outdoor soccer with a face mask on. Um, but through them, I've become a travel soccer coach. Now I'm a travel basketball coach. In having to help move people along, whether they are 8, 9, or 10, or full-fledged adults, there are some similarities there because at the end of the day, you are still trying to get people to be better versions of themselves. You're trying to move them along, teach them how to grow. So I really like coaching for that aspect. Sometimes it's a great mental break, from the day to day, just gets me out of that zone into a very different one. But there's a lot of similarities between, being a business leader and also teaching kids. Yeah.
Yeah, we bring a lot of our, youthful personality into our adulthood in terms of the way we react to things or, our personality quirks. I find that if I'm having an interpersonal work challenge, I have friends who are teachers in the public school system, and they often have the best advice on how to deal with things.
I believe
I
that.
don't I think that, kids are, early versions of the adults that we all become.
They
Yeah.
totally are. And, it's the same. And I think it's like the similar concepts, right? I mean, you want people to learn and grow. So you can't criticize them for making a mistake because they tried something new, right?
Sure.
They try a new move in the basketball court, ball gets stolen. You can't yell at them for trying. But there are coaches that do, just like there are managers that do.
Right,
And
right.
you can tell it's the same exact principle. The kids that can fail are the kids that learn. The
I
adults
think
that
that's
can
called
fail,
errorless learning.
yeah,
Meaning there's no such thing as mistakes exactly. It's just this happened and let's see what we could learn from it. I agree with you. There's really not much to be gained by chastising, you know, things that have happened that maybe didn't go the best way. It's just all about how can we move on and take something from this, right? Like no one's
yeah,
living this flawless life as much as we all
I know.
imagine it.
Exactly. Exactly. We're all going to make some mistakes.
For sure.
Just
Absolutely.
want to make sure we learn from them and don't keep repeating them.
Definitely. Okay, so as we wrap up, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Probably LinkedIn. It's probably where I spend most of the time.
I
That's
will
probably the
put
best way to
that
reach out and get in touch.
in the show notes. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. Thank you so much for being a guest on The Last Word on Product Marketing. This has been really interesting. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast on all the major platforms and check out the videos on my YouTube channel. And thank you to Brian, and thank you for listening.